welcome back to The Verdict. So, speaking about legacy, I know that some days ago we spoke about how it's very important for leaders to leave a legacy that people can always refer to. But, Mr. Gary, we were talking about the president having this opportunity.
Right.
How do you expect him to seize it?
He can seize it very, very quickly, very early in the new administration. Once signed in, there are a few things that he needs to put in place. One of such would be the electoral reform, and to ensure that a thorough and comprehensive assessments are done of not only this election but even previous elections, and see where the gaps are and how legal instrument or reforms that would come in and strengthen the institution and ensure that going forward we will have a credible legal and regulatory authority that would ensure that we have free and fair elections, not the verbiage that comes out of our leaders. Two, he also needs to do something about the economy. As somebody who has seen the unemployment rate go up to 23%, youth unemployment at nearly 50%, and the GDP growth is really, really anemic in a country where population is growing at 3%, where GDP is growing at less than 2%, which means that every year we are going to be poorer than we were the previous year. Now, if he can address those, plus some of the other infrastructural things which he has started with a sense of urgency, and of course we can talk about many other things, cabinet and all of that, but just tackling those very early on in the life of this administration, the new incoming administration, the two things will happen. One is that people will rally around, because once you have that vision laid out and people see you implementing that vision, the assistance will come from all over, even from across the aisle. Even the opposition will come around, and we will have bipartisan consensus or multi-partisan, depending on how many parties are going to be in the National Assembly. So those are some of the key things that President Muhammadu Buhari can kickstart as the curtain call comes on his career as our president the third time over.
This is probably also pointing in the way of something that we have always talked about, which is unbundling of INEC. Is that what this is about?
No, it is not about unbundling of INEC. It is about actually institutionalizing things in the country. Because when you institutionalize institutionalize aspects of governance, it means that no one will take us back.
Yes.
No one will put us backwards. Yeah. And it means that people begin to be more professional in the exercise of their duties. And what that means is that even the bureaucratic setup will begin to improve and efficiencies kick in. And as such, what will happen is that down the road, we will begin to see what we had envisioned this country ought to be.
Prof, I think I agree with him in total. But for that to happen, I was just, while we were on break, talking about the proposition that I made in 2005 when I gave my inaugural lecture, that in this country we need 36 mad men, mad in quotes. And I defined my madness as somebody who wants to do things for the sake of doing what is right, and that will be all, okay? And he will not mind the cost to himself. He will not think about what he will gain from the exercise. He will not be bothered about what happens to him after leaving the office. But while in office, he will ensure that everything that he needs to do to ensure that the country keeps moving forward, he will do.
Let me just quickly follow that up. How would you like this, quote, madman to act, in the sense that there's supposed to be 2 terms? If they start their madness in the first term, they may not get elected for the second term.
Sure, yes.
So where would they start?
No, they will start from the first term. As he has said, if Nigerians see that you are treading a path that is likely to profit them in the future, they will follow you.
Yeah, but don't forget the godfathers who will be the impediment.
Those who will be the impediment are the people that are advising you. Okay? But if you have made up your mind, I mean, you will say through. We have had it in this country before. Jakonde is a living example of that. Okay,
but I don't know much about the madness that they can exceed to that level. But one thing I'm sure is that the reality that we face today is that of the PIB, which is very, very critical. And with the government running at a deficit now because they're paying subsidies, a lot of people fear that one of the possible outcomes over the next 6 months may be an increase in the fuel price.
Correct.
And that will further impoverish the people. As you've said, that if we don't institutionalize those items you mentioned, then we stand the risk of getting poorer with a population that's growing at 3% and the GDP at less than 2%.
Yes.
So these are the realities on ground. What, in your view, should be the direction with concerning the PIB on the first hand and ensuring that we don't have an increase in fuel price?
If legacy were to be the major objective of President Muhammadu Buhari, everything should be on the table, including removal of fuel. For that matter, rather than calling it fuel subsidy, I'll call it energy subsidy, because even the electricity we are paying is subsidized, extremely subsidized, to the extent that private parties would not want to be in that space. I mean, where they are basically saying, I will generate the power, you pay me, rather than I will bring it all the way to the last mile. Now, so unbundling, so that economic conversation needs to take place. In fact, when you look at the PMS subsidy, last year alone, we spent 1.2 to 1.3 trillion naira in subsidy. Now, that is nearly 3 times the amount that was scandalized during Jonathan's administration. Remember the Umar Farouk incident and so on and so forth. Now, we can put our heads in the sand and continue to subsidize, and the outcome might be something close to Venezuela. Or we might bite the bullet and do some of the most unpopular things right now,
that is the thing,
so that the future for, if not ourselves, but our children would be better secured.
Yes.
You know very well, Mr. Kyari, that that's a very unpopular.
It's extremely unpopular.
Extremely unpopular, and could actually pitch the people against the government.
No, there is one person. If there is one person who could remove subsidy and put palliatives in place for the extremely poor in our society, it would be President Muhammadu Buhari, who happened to be the chairman of Pt.5, which was an institution that Abacha introduced as part of fuel price increase. I mean, if I remember, that's why he became the chairman of Pt.5. Yeah. And Pt.5 had done a number of things where, in fact, some of the water plants in the country were actually Pt.5 projects. People still remember those. Now, this is something that is going to be of major and significant legacy to him, should we do that. Diesel prices have been deregulated.